when I heard the title, it brought a story back to me, and it brought back a time when, I was working, and we had planned a 24-hour marathon at the factory, and I was all excited about going. I had worked that day, and then I was just going to sleep a little bit, and then get up and do the part of the marathon. And I was walking up the stairs, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I had a terrible migraine, and I could not move, and my husband had to physically carry me up the stairs and put me in the bed. That's how bad it was. And he had to have a heart to heart conversation with me and say, Ursula, I know you want to do all of these things, but if you're not here, then what do you think is going to happen? And I was crying because I was like, "Oh, I really want to go. I want to do this. I want to, And then I was going to do the overnight marathon. Then I was going to go to a women's conference with my sister-in-law, and so I was called her and I told her I can't go. I've got a migraine. Well, it was the next day. I need to rest. Blah blah. But I realized that day it taught me a major lesson that I have to take time for myself, and I am no good to anyone if I am not the best that I can be. And so, when I heard the title, leading without losing myself, it took me back to that point. And I said, after that day, I mean, I sat in bed the entire day and I watched Lifetime and I enjoyed myself. But I said, no more. I won't there. And I put particular things into place so that I would not put myself in a position like that again.
That's good.
I love.
Brandy.
Yeah, for me, I think the title Leading Without Losing Yourself really resonated with me as someone, in the corporate world at this kind of mid-level where I've been here for a few years, but I still have aspirations to climb the corporate ladder. And, with that, figuring out how to the best way to do that with also maintaining boundaries and, like Ursula was saying, taking time for yourself. I feel like when I first started out, it was hard for me to, I started my career at an agency that had unlimited PTO. And so with that, it was a blessing, but I feel like I honestly didn't use enough of the days that I was given. I mean, I could take off whenever I wanted to, but I feel like I was so caught up in, wanting to advance. And I also have a hard time handing off things to other people because from my perspective, and I'm sure some of you other ladies are like this too, where, if you know how to do it, why wouldn't you just do it yourself, right? So learning how to balance that with climbing the corporate ladder, I feel like has been really important for me to learn, and the panel title really resonated with me as well.
So good. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. That's important because the key, I think, like we said, is to take time for ourselves so that we don't lose ourselves in the monotony of everything else and everyone else, right? So I want to ask, what are some common struggles you faced when it comes to balancing professional success with personal well-being? Has anyone experienced any struggles? And
Yeah.
raise your
The
hand if you
big the biggest
have.
struggle is like Ursula said, knowing when to rest,
Mm,
especially when you have a lot of responsibility. You just feel like just one more thing. I'll just do this one more thing and then I'll be done. Well, and then there's another one more thing, and then there's another one more thing. And so that's why for me, no is my self-care.
mm,
Because if I say yes to you, I have to say no to something for me. And I had to get to the point after having I had to have open heart surgery at 36 because they
wow.
found a hole in my heart that apparently I was born with and never knew. And after having gone through that experience, it really changed the way, and having to like literally need somebody just to get up out of bed and being down for 8 weeks. Like it really changes your perspective on like Brendy was saying, like the delegation. Like, no, somebody else can do that. Because given my health and me making sure I'm okay or doing this other thing, I gotta choose me. I gotta make sure that I'm okay. And so even now it's still a struggle, but um when I feel that tickle in my throat because I have to talk all day, rather than push it to the limit where I'm in the middle of a session and my voice completely goes out. No, let me take a beat and let me love on me a little bit. Like Ursula said, lay in the bed. Mine is a Lifetime. My guilty pleasure is Only Murders in the Building on Hulu.
Okay.
That's my jam. I need them to come back with one more season. But laying in bed, watching something, reading, just relaxing, right? Before it has to get to the point where it lays you down. Because you can either sit down or you can get sat down, as the old folks used to say. So for me, it's learning to listen to my body better so that I don't completely crash out. I can take those steps before. And usually when you do that, the recovery time is a lot quicker. If you wait until you're all the way burnt out, it's going to take you longer to bounce back. But if you are intentional about taking those little moments away from yourself at the end of every day, at the end of every week, you just kind of pour into yourself. It makes it, I've learned, I'm not saying this like I got it all together. I have learned that it makes it all better.
That's good. I had to put your quote in the chat. You can sit down or you can get sat down. That's good. And, Kaylin in the chat, she said that delegation is a challenge for her as a leader. So thanks, Brittany, for sharing that. But yeah, she said that she can relate to that. Please definitely put your comments in the chat. We will read them. If you have any questions for our panelists as we navigate through this conversation, please put in the chat. Our team will make sure we answer it at the end. And if you're on camera, we can even bring you up on stage and you can ask it directly to our amazing panelists. So does anyone else have a common struggle or that they'd like to share that they faced?
I think the biggest one for me has always been guilt. Guilt for working too much, guilt for missing moments with my kids, guilt for wanting more. I've struggled with the belief that if I wasn't grinding 24/7, I wasn't doing enough. And a good amount of that came from my childhood. There were seasons where I was really successful on paper, but emotionally depleted at home. And I had to learn that my well being isn't a luxury, it's a foundation of how I lead, love, and serve. Now I treat balance not as a perfect formula, but as a daily choice. And it's making this conscious effort, of this daily choice of choosing me first and really helping me identify where's this guilt coming from.
And how's that going?
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a student. I'm a student. Even though I'm a therapist and I've gone to school for a bazillion years, at the end of the day, I've I've worked on, my dad was an alcoholic and a heroin addict and a gang member. So for the longest time, I grew up trying to figure out the formula to get him the treatment he needed to, make sure that he was sober, to help him with recovery. And I found that I was still recreating my childhood over and over again, with the tasks that I put in front of me, and really kind of honing in on I don't have to figure out the formula for everybody else. It's just really paying attention to the formula for myself. So definitely a work in progress.
Thank you for sharing that. Because a lot of times we do believe it has to happen now, right? Or we're hard on ourselves if it doesn't, we're clocking ourselves. And so we have to give ourselves, as my girlfriend Nisha has coined, she's on tonight, is grace, grace, grace in its true form. So Pam said in the chat, she loves the transparency. This is a journey and a process. And yes, so next up, I want to ask, has anyone had to handle, we hear so much about this imposter syndrome, right? It's a trending word, I guess, but I like when we hear like the pressure to constantly prove ourselves in leadership spaces as women, and we're all leaders, you all are leaders. Have you been in a situation where you felt like you had to prove yourself in those spaces, and how did you handle that?
I feel like for me, I've dealt with imposter syndrome quite a lot. I started my career and I've been promoted every year since then. So when I first started out, I was an account executive, and there was the opportunity to participate in this new business pitch for this really big pharmaceutical company that everyone's heard of. And I was asked to be on the pitch, and I got there, and I'm probably the youngest person by at least 15 years, right? And luckily I had my mentor and former manager on the trip with me. And so we were able to have some really great conversations about, being prepared and not being psyched out in the room. And I remember so specifically, we were in the Uber with the whole pitch team, and we were on our way to the prospect's office. And I'm sitting there with these people who they've been doing this for decades. Like, this is my first pitch, and I felt prepared. I'm a great presenter, but it's still a little nerve-wracking when you're doing this. And in the back, I remember the client relationship lead and some of the other team members were talking about one of the prospects and saying, this and that about him, and he's intimidating, and he has all this money, and blah, 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 blah. And as soon as we got out the car, Sharice, my mentor, looked at me and was like, it doesn't matter how much money he has. He's not the smartest person in the room. Like, don't even think about him. Like, we're going to be in this room with a bunch of people, but you know exactly what you need to say. Like, you know exactly how you need to present. And so I feel like imposter syndrome is something that I learned to quiet early on, because I had to tell myself there's a reason I'm in the rooms that I'm in. And even last week, I was with the managing partner of our New York Health group at this conference to do some networking. And we were also, helping out with some of our clients who had panels, and just getting some social content for them. And it was a very last minute trip. So I found out a week before that I was going to this conference in Philadelphia. And when we were together, Tom, my managing partner, said, I was asked by my boss, Gil, who I wanted to bring to this conference with me. And I immediately said Brendy. And Gil was like, are you sure? She's a little young, but I love the idea. Like, he was immediately on board, because I've been able to work with Gil and show him my work ethic, and he knows how important relationship building is to me, and to connect with potential clients. So even though it's, a more unconventional approach to have someone kind of mid-level and not even at a partner level going to these conferences and these events, I've learned to quiet my imposter syndrome and know that my work ethic speaks for itself, and that the results that I'm able to deliver, not just for my teams, but also for the agency as a whole, is really a testament to who I am. And so it doesn't matter, how young I am or what level I am. Everyone still respects me and knows that the value that I bring to the team.
The value that you bring, and more than them knowing it, you know it. So that's awesome. Would anyone else like to share on this, the pressure of being a woman, being in these rooms, the struggle that we have to balance our professional success with personal well-being?
I know for me, I love, Brandy, I love that you just shared that. I know for me, when I worked at the hospital, being in the room with psychologists, psychiatrists, me being a therapist, and the level of education, the schools that they went to, imposter syndrome would show up over and over again. And it's when I was working at the hospital, even though I opened up a solo practice, I remember although I kept on walking in to resign because I was just working too much, there was this little voice in the back of my head saying, there's no way you're capable of doing this. So you have to stay at the hospital in order for you to get this, influx of clients. And I remember I had applied to be in this mastermind group, and he asked me, you have a solo practice, and I had to submit an application and it showed all of your numbers. And he's like, and you have this much revenue with no website, no social media presence. Why are you still at the hospital? And it's like, because I'm going to learn so much from them. And he's like, give me an idea of how much everybody's making. And so I told him, and he's like, girl, yeah, they might have all of these degrees, but you are tripling their income. And I later opened a group private pay practice. And that imposter syndrome, although I tried to quiet it, especially as a woman of color in leadership, what's helped me is calling it out when it showed up. Like literally saying to myself, this is fear talking, not fact. And reminding myself, similar to what Brandy said, there's no way I'm not in this room by accident. I'm there on purpose. And then surrounding myself with women who also speak truth whenever I forget my power. And I think it's one thing to consider that we're all going to have moments of imposter syndrome, like every single one of us, regardless of, whether you have $1 million company or not. It's being able to identify, like, this is how passionate you are about this particular field or this particular career, or this particular situation, and recognizing that the reason why imposter syndrome comes up is because of that passion, but it's really just fear.
Yes, and I want us to take a moment and put in the chat, I am here on purpose. I am where I am on purpose. That's what you said. I am where I am on purpose. Let's write that in the chat. I just believe when you write something down, whether it's in the chat or wherever, it can resonate inside of us. I am where I am on purpose. Yes, thank you so much for that. All right, we're going to move to our next question. This is amazing. Again, if you have any questions or comments for our panelists, please put it in the chat. We're going to answer the questions at the end. If you want to answer your question, ask your question yourself, we will be more than happy to bring you on stage, on the virtual stage with our panelists. Just make sure you turn your camera on. We want to be able to see you. If you don't want to turn your camera on, no problem. We will read your question and answer it accordingly. So we had a poll. Our poll was about those non-negotiable self-care practices. Share some of yours. What are some of your non-negotiable self-care practices that you integrate in order to maintain balance?
Okay, I'll start. I'm the person that wrote naps and sleep. I my friends from college can tell you how I take naps. I've always done it my entire life. And so that hasn't changed. Sleep is very important to me. When I don't get my sleep, I'm not in the best state of mind. I cannot function very well. And so, sleep is definitely a non-negotiable for me. Um, some of the other things, of course, some people mention massages. That's important to me as well. I also play bid whist every Friday night with a group of people, and that's non-negotiable. I mean, my kids, well, my young people, they're not kids, but they're 26, I think something 24, something like that. Anyway, they called me because they were both out of town, and they called me and my husband, and they FaceTime me on Friday, and they're like, "Mom," I'm like, "I'm playing cards. Why are you calling me? What is going on? I can talk to you later." That's non-negotiable. People say, "Oh, well, we're gonna do this on Friday night." I play cards on Friday night. So there are particular things. I also have a movie pass. So I have the unlimited movie pass. I go to the movies all the time. I go by myself. It doesn't matter. It's those sorts of things where I can pour that time back into me that makes a difference. One last thing. I do not check email before I go to work because I used to do that. And then my mind would start going, and it's like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. I stopped all of that. So I said, you know what? Because I would used to wake up in the morning and check my email. Nope. It can wait until I get to work. And when I get to work, then I can deal with all of that. If there's something that's going to be, urgent, somebody will call me or text me, and then I will deal with it. But if not, I do not check email before work. And then last thing, I stopped watching the news. And that has been phenomenal. I had no idea how stressed out the news made me until I stopped watching it. After the election, I stopped watching the news, and it has been wonderful. I read what I want to read as far as the news is concerned. If I don't want to read it, I just scroll past it and keep going. So those are some of mine.
Thank you for sharing. Those were a lot of nuggets.
I know it's a lot.
No, we want to hear it. We're here for it. That's why you're up here. We're here for it. Yes, bring it, bring it. All right, who's next? We want everybody to answer this. We wanted you to be able to share some non-negotiable self-care practices you integrate into your routine to maintain balance.
I just say no. I just say no. No, I don't give explanations. I used to say, no, I wish I could, but no, it's just no. If I don't want to go, I'm not going. I don't care who invited me. I don't care what the event is. If I'm tired, I'm tired. If I said I was going and I don't feel like it, I'm saying no. that that is my non-negotiable. And it was important because, very much like what Veronica said, it was this constant, got to keep going, do this for everybody, got to keep, all of that. And started realizing that I was setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. That's not a sustainable strategy.
Mm.
And so now, even in my practice, if I am not in the right headspace, it's a call out. If I don't want to, I don't know, go out that night with friends, it's a no. It really is a no. And then, kind of in line with that, is making sure that I am spending time with my family, that I'm spending time with my friend. Like, I have like categories, like cups that have to get filled. I have to, when I read, I alternate between fiction and nonfiction. So I got to read a little bit, I got to learn a little bit. I got to read a little bit, I got to learn a little bit. That's the nerd in me, right? But even with that, okay, you've done all of this research, you went down this research rabbit hole. It's time to cut that off. It's time to get up and walk away from the computer. Now, I have not mastered, Ursula, you might have to give a master class on how not to answer those emails in the morning, because working from home has gotten me in a really kind of messed up place. But you just gave me something to think about, and that's going to be my new strategy. I'm gonna tell myself no in the morning. No, you're not reaching for the phone and checking emails first thing in the morning. So, but yeah, just setting boundaries first with myself, because most people think about setting boundaries with other people. I have to learn to say no. And then once I'm comfortable with saying no, then it just opens up so much more time and space for me to really take care of myself.
So good. So
Can I
before
just
we
add something to that? I'm sorry, chime in.
absolutely, no, go on.
This
I just want to
this is
read
some
some
no,
stats.
this is something that, when she said no, it reminded me of something someone told me. They said, no is a complete sentence. So there you go.
Right. And I want to read some of the chat because it's popping from when you were sharing, Ursula, just talking about the sleep. Crystal said, yes, sleep is mine also, Ursula. Carla blew it. Uh-oh, Brenda, your mom's in the house. She said, director of the nap ministry over here. Pam said, amen. Yes, same. Monica Yvonne said she stopped watching the news during the pandemic. Kim said, yes, Ursula. Caitlin said, yes to taking a break from the news. Felicia stopped that too. Talisha says she doesn't watch the news either. So you hit with a lot of people in the room, a lot of ladies in the room tonight. And Candace said, if you have an iPhone, you can create a do not disturb custom setting to silence Teams or Outlook from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. and all throughout the weekend. So I have to investigate that one. That's good, Candace. Thank you for sharing that. And then Michelle Nicole said, same, no news. Crystal says she's learning to say no more often without guilt. Dr. J. And so it's interesting because my dad bought me a book. I remember him having it, or I think he bought it for us, but it said how to say no and not feel guilty. And we were little, like I was in like junior high or something. So it didn't resonate. But yeah. And then Talisha said she had to stop apologizing for everything years ago. And Monica Yvonne said, if I said I was going and I'm tired, it's no. And so let's all, before we move on, well, we got a lot in the chat. Thank you so much. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Pam said, plug your phone in away from your bed and pick up your journal or something else other than your phone. Yeah. So let's put, everyone just put no, period. or exclamation point, whatever you want. Let's put that in the chat now. No, I'm gonna have to put an exclamation point. Oh, Dr. J, you had to add the extra O's. Okay. But yes, we have to get better with that word. No, it's not a bad word. It's not a negative word when it's used in the right sense. Okay, so Brenda or Veronica, let's hear your self-care non-negotiables that you use and integrate into your routine to maintain balance.
I have a few. I really prioritize eating healthy. I know sometimes it can be so easy to, and I'm guilty, I have my DoorDash pass, but sometimes it can be so easy to go on DoorDash and be like, what sounds good tonight? But I'm trying to be very intentional about healthy eating and knowing that food is fuel and knowing if I put good in, I can put good out. So, for DoorDash tonight, instead of doing pizza or anything, we did something like kava to keep it a little lighter. So I feel like I definitely prioritize eating healthy when I can. Skincare is another big one for me. I'm very into makeup and skincare. And in the mornings, honestly, I feel like doing my skincare, my makeup is like a ritual for me. Like I'll start, I'll put on the products, I'll either listen to a podcast or just listen to some music. And that's really my me time before I get into the chaos of the day because I am guilty of looking at the outlook when I wake up. So I already started to get into the work mindset a little bit. So I feel like my getting ready time is just really my time for me throughout the day, and I really appreciate that time and just focus on doing the makeup and doing the skincare. So it's nice and relaxing for me, and I always make sure, yes, makeup therapy, Talisha. That's exactly what it is for me. Exactly what it is for me. So I would say those are probably my two big things. I try to do either a massage or facial when I can, and every time after I get one, I'm like, man, I really need to do this more because they're just so good. So I would say those two are another other big ones that I enjoy.
Wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Celia said she's been plant-based for 40 years. So she's been eating healthy. Veronica.
So mine's going to be a little bit unconventional. I was running this women's group, and one of their assignments was to spend an hour in silence, no phone, no notebook. And I remember when I gave them that assignment, and this is all high achieving women, like they own $1 million companies, and they automatically raise their hand. They're like, "Can we take a nap?" Nope. Can we go for a walk? Nope. Sitting there in silence for 1 hour. Can I have a notepad and pen? Nope. No phone, nothing, just you in silence. And I asked them, you guys are coming up with all of these different things to do. Just sit there in silence. And I asked them, what do you think would come up for that first, couple minutes? And they're like, well, the to-do list. Okay. So after the to-do list, well, then I'd start, all the creative juices will start flowing. And then I have to write all of these down. These are all business women, all entrepreneurs. So I have to write all of these ideas down. All right. So after, the tasks and after the creativity, what follows? And then one of them raised their hand and said, everything that I've been running from.
Wow.
All of those thoughts, maybe some of that unhealed pain, some of that unhealed trauma. And so if I'm asking, the women that I'm coaching to do this, then I for damn sure better do it myself. And so definitely spending 1 hour in complete silence and allowing myself to feel the pain, allowing myself to feel the healing and truly, truly connect. That's what I do for self-care.
Wow. Whew. An hour, 60 minutes. That's good.
60
That's
minutes.
discipline. That's
And how
discipline.
often, Veronica?
I try to do that. I'd like to say I do it once a week, but I'd totally be lying. I try to do it once a month. I really do. I try to do it once a month where it's just me in silence. I own a couple businesses, and then I have kids and all of those other things. And I find myself trying to do that at least once a month. So at the end of each month, and really, really one thing that comes up is all of the things that I've accomplished that I don't want to say failed to acknowledge, but I didn't celebrate because it was like, okay, on to the next, on to the next. So really allowing myself to just sit and like just be in like, holy moly, I totally did that. Like that happened, you know, really, really process through that pain.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to read some of our comments in the chat. Pamela said, yes, only difference between a routine and a ritual is the intent behind the action. Love it. Hattie said, establishing a good skincare routine morning and night since college. It's important. Give yourself that face massage. It soothes you. Michelle said, I do it all the time, every day, spend time with myself. Letitia said, speaking my language. And then, okay, so you got a new unlocked goal, Dr. J, with that silence for an hour. Talisha said, doubting thought definitely comes up in silence, but it's such great reflective time. So, yeah, like Pam said, she said there's a really good silent retreat in Richmond, Virginia. And I saw that on TV the other day. They were away though, and I want to say it might have been like Thailand or something, but it was a silent retreat. You couldn't talk, and so I was like, "Wow, I wonder how I would do." So, but it's a challenge. How about I'm going to try to start with 15 minutes and then just work my way up. So start somewhere, but I think that's so great. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Next up, remember, ladies, if you have a question, put it in the chat. Our team's going to get it over to a file we have, and we're going to answer your questions at the end. If you want to come up, we would love for you to come up. We'll spotlight you up here on the virtual stage with us. If you don't want to come up, that's okay. Just put your question in there. It can also be a comment if you want us to share at the end during our Q&A time. So we're all here. We're all here in our PJs, our loungewear, to pause and pour into ourselves. And, the sisterhood, the community, let's talk about that. I believe that sisterhood and support systems are crucial. How have other women played a role in your leadership journey? Popcorn style.
Well, you don't get here by yourself. You don't get wherever here is. I don't care if it's the top of a Fortune 500 company or just surviving a day without jail time. You need other you need a community of other people. And for me, that community and that sisterhood has come in a lot of different ways. So, in business, I have two coaches, both of which are Black women who are successful entrepreneurs who will push me outside of my comfort zone any chance they get, right? But who will also be there to just hold space for me to just talk about how I want to quit every third day. And they'll be like, okay, that's nice, but now we're gonna get up and keep going, right? So having those women to pour into me. On a personal note, I'm a member of, well, we've named ourselves the Winos, Women in Need of Sanity. And so once a month, because New Jersey is known as the Garden State, we've got some beautiful vineyards all throughout South Jersey. Once a month, we'll go and we'll go to a different vineyard. We kind of have a few of our faves, but we'll go, we'll sit, we'll get something to eat, we'll just talk. I'm not Dr. J there. I'm not a professional there. I'm not even a mom or a wife there. I'm just one of the girls, right? And we sit and we support each other, and we're there for each other. Sometimes it's a venting session. Sometimes people think that we are like super drunk, but we're just happy to be around each other. And like, this is before the wine comes. We're just laughing and just joking and cutting up and just having a ball because we need that release, right? And then in my practice, then I get to turn and be that support for the women that I work with. I get to be the safe space for them to unpack. I get to be the safe space for women in leadership who are trying to cultivate their leadership skills. Um, but because women are not a norm yet in leadership, and particularly Black and Brown women are not like the norm in leadership, um, I don't think we get here, we stay here by ourselves. I think we all need a community. And Hattie said, what happens when you lose those women? You got to find new ones. It's got to be a non-negotiable. There's no way that we're not meant, if you look at just the way that we are biologically designed, we are not designed to live in isolation. We need a sense of community. And whether that community right now happens to be virtual in spaces like this, until you find something, there are a ton of different groups. You've got Meetup, you've got uh what is it, Bumble for Friends or something like that. I forget what it's called, but there are all these different apps where you Eventbrite, you've got all these different things, um, these different tools that you can use to help you create a whole new set of folks. And that doesn't mean that everything you jump into you're going to love. No, but you keep going and keep pushing until you find something, because on your own you are going to starve. You're going to be depleted. You cannot do this thing called life, especially not in this social, political, economic climate. You cannot do life on your own, particularly if you are a woman of color. It's just not going to happen. So wherever it is, you got to find your folks. I've been blessed that I have, a couple of strong communities, but Patty, you just got to find it. You got to be intentional. You have to make up in your mind that just because the first gathering or whatever didn't work out, that you're not going to say forget it. It is going to take work finding your community. But then once you get it, be open and honest and transparent about what it is that you need. And so people can tell you if they have the capacity for that. But I don't think we can do this. We can't do this by ourselves.
Thank you. Any other insight? I want to hear from everyone on this. This is about sisterhood and the importance of how women have played a role in your journey. Let us know in your journey how women have been there.
For me, one thing I want to make sure I point out is I think for us women, we're all, for the most part, we're all go-getters. We're all determined. We're all self-driven, self-motivated. And that can blur our perceptions in believing that other women are in competition with us. And it can keep us very isolated and withdrawn from wanting to share and be vulnerable with other women. And I have to say, I was personally guilty of that. I was guilty of believing that women did not have the intention of raising me up. I always thought women, because of how I grew up in a Mexican household, my aunts, the minute I talked about college, as I mentioned earlier, I was always shamed and dismissed, or I thought I was, here she goes again. She thinks she's all that. So I was taught that women will shame you and ridicule you. So I kept my circle really, really small. Well, what I realized, and I appreciate what Dr. J said, is, in all of it, other women saved me, like, period. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without women who prayed for me, challenged me, called me out, or simply reminded me that you're not crazy. This is just hard. Whether it was my bestie, whether it was my professors, whether it was women that I'm in a mastermind group with, whether it was my friends, I literally started to surround myself with women who also were like me, and in finding those women, started to become more and more vulnerable. And I had those uncomfortable conversations. And I realized that with me being vulnerable, it was not a sign of weakness, it was a sign of empowerment, right? And I built confidence through that. Um, and, like I said earlier, women definitely saved me, in so many ways. In so many ways. I learned so much of the power of unity and community.
Thank you, Veronica. Ursula?
Well, mine started with my mother. I mean, I was very fortunate to have, a very strong woman as a mother. And she continues to help me to this day with giving me insight and wisdom, on life and leadership. And then I'm an extrovert. And so I meet a lot of people and talk to people and, become friends or good acquaintances or whatever the case may be. But just over time, I have been very fortunate to develop, a lot of friendships and role models and people who have made a difference in my life and continue to make a difference. The person talked about losing, what happens when you lose that community. I think Dr. J is exactly right. Then you find someone else. I think the important piece of what Dr. J said as well is not only are you looking for mentors and a sisterhood to help you, but it's also important that you help someone else as well. I had an opportunity to be a part of a junior achievement career day, and I was on the entrepreneurship group, and there were three other Black women who were part of the group. And as I sat there and listened to them, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's wonderful! Oh, that's so great! Oh my goodness, you're doing great things!" And we had a chance to listen to each other, and it's just like, okay, so we're setting up a time where we can meet for dinner and just kind of talk to each other and help each other out. It's those sorts of things that, make a difference. So not only are we looking for others to help support us, but also, we've got to make sure that we support each other. So that's the thing that's been good for me as well.
Thank you. Brandy?
I would say for me, I really am fortunate to have so many great women in my family that have been great role models to me that are also ambitious. So I know my mom and my sister are here tonight, and I feel like I've just been able to learn from them. My mom recently started a new job last year. I have to give her a quick shout out. She's recently started a new job last year, and she leads North America operations for an Italian leather company, Gruppo Mistrato. And she got that opportunity. I also get some of my networking skills from her because that opportunity kind of fell into her lap, and my current role also kind of fell into my lap. So I've been very fortunate to learn from the women in my family around me. And I would also say, I started talking a little bit about my previous mentor at my last agency, Sharice, and she was also one of the very few Black women at the agency. Of like 300 people, it was probably her, I, and maybe three other women. It was very, very small. So she immediately was a mentor for me and a resource for me, and really showed me the ropes of the PR industry. And so we talk all the time now. We joke that her daughter is my protege, and she's like, I want my daughter to be just like you. So just spread your magic onto her too. And it's a relationship I've been very fortunate to foster. And I would also say, just being in DC, I for a while I worked a part-time job at Lululemon, and it was a very, if anyone ever needs a side hustle, Lululemon is so easy. I'll make that plug too. And I'm also wearing my Lululemon tonight. But I would say through that job, I was also able to connect with other women who, worked full time in doing, government or federal contractors, and they just wanted to have a second job because they're ambitious and have goals they want to accomplish, whether it's, saving for a condo or taking time to travel or things like that. So I've been really fortunate for that community that I, even found just through a quick little side hustle. And we have a group chat together, and we connect all the time. And, sometimes we'll talk about work or, just lean on each other for support, especially right now. With one of them is in the government contracting space. So unfortunately, with some of these changes to the federal workforce, she's been impacted. So it's been a really good community to be a part of. So very fortunate for all the incredible women in my life that have been able to show me the ropes and also just push me and really encourage me as well.
So the bottom line is it's important, right? That sisterhood is important. And we just need to be open, like Dr. J said, just because it's not there doesn't mean it won't be there. There are women out there who are called to you, they're there for you, and it's being open and being willing to have. I think I heard at least two of you or three of you say you have to have hard conversations sometimes, and sometimes we avoid those hard conversations. but they're with our sisters, right? We got to talk. It's not always, love isn't always easy, right? There's that tough love. And so we have to be open, and it takes us coming together. We're strong together, stronger together than we are alone. And like we heard tonight, community is crucial. None of us will be all that we're called to be by ourselves. And so as we prepare to close this panel discussion and move into any questions that anyone has tonight, please take advantage. This is an opportunity. This is community. You have these phenomenal women on stage tonight who bring a lot of wisdom and experience and transparency and vulnerability. So if there's something you want to ask, again, this is a safe space, and we want you to be able to feel that you can ask anything that you may need to ask that will help you in your journey. And so share with all of us one affirmation or mantra you live by that helps you stay grounded and empowered in your leadership.
I'll go. My affirmation is I can be powerful and at peace at the same time, especially when I feel like I have to hustle for worthiness. That mantra reminds me I don't have to sacrifice my mental or emotional health to be effective. Peace and power can coexist.
That's good. I can be powerful and peaceful at the same time. Thank you. Carla said she loves that. And Nisha put in the chat that showing up for her shows up. Showing up for me shows up for us, even when I'm not present in person. Great discussion. I like that, Nisha. Thank you. Anyone else? Do you have a affirmation or mantra, something that helps you stay grounded and empowered? That's
One
kind of like that peace and power, grounded yet empowered in leadership.
One thing that I have a box of affirmations that I think my parents got me for Christmas a couple Christmases ago. But the one that I keep, facing up constantly on my desk is I have the power to create change. And I feel like that is just a good reminder for me personally and professionally. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing. It can be contributing to a project, it could be supporting someone that's become a new friend. It could be getting involved in the community in DC. So it can be a lot of things. And it definitely helps me stay grounded and reminds me that, there's something else that's driving me. And even on the difficult days when I'm, really frustrated with some of my colleagues, and some of my clients, it's a really helpful reminder to take a step back and see the bigger picture.
Love that, and love your vulnerability, because for all of us, right, every day isn't a perfect day. There are going to be some hard days, but that's part of the journey, and it's okay. And when we have each other, a community that we can lean on, it helps a lot. It's important. So Ursula or Dr. J, what's the affirmation or mantra that helps you?
So, one of the things I've been saying to myself lately is one door closes and another door opens.
Mhm.
Look for the open door. And so that's been really good for me, because it's just like something will happen and be like, oh my goodness, I got to deal with this. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So that door closed. But then it's just like, oh, what? This happened? Oh, that's fantastic. So, it's just not getting caught up in the things that happen, but looking for that opportunity as well. And then, of course, for those of you all who know me and knew my father, I am, I can, and I will. And you put anything behind it that you want. I am, I can, and I will. But yeah, one door closes, another door opens. You just got to look for the open door.
And one thing you taught me many years ago that I
Absolutely.
still say
And I
is,
say it too.
all they can say is yes. A lot of times we say all they can say is no. Ursula would always say, all they can say is yes.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different mindset for me. And so, because fear can set in like, oh, what if they don't want to do? What if they, no. All they can do is say yes. And I see your picture. So thank you for that one too. So Dr. J.
I have to be honest, when you first asked that question, I chuckled because the first thing, my intrusive thought almost won, and I almost came off the mic and started singing, "On my mama, on my hood, I look fly, I look good, touch my
Yes.
swag, wish you would." But that's not it. That's not it. That's just what I heard, and the intrusive thought almost won. Um, um, one of the things that I have put on my vision board every year, probably for the past for the past see, I got my people in the chat. See, y'all rock with me. Y'all are my brand of off. I like this. I like this. Um, one of the things that I put on my vision board for like the past probably 4 or 5 years in big bold letters is why not me?
Mm,
Instead of, well, maybe I can make this work or whatever. And so that has been my approach to everything. Why not me? And it speaks to, we were talking earlier about the imposter syndrome. It speaks to, that kind of like, I don't know, that sometimes hesitancy that we can have, particularly if we are the only one in the room or the only one at the table. And so I have had to kind of shake myself and kind of look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, you're talking about all this stuff, to your point of all they can say is yes. Okay, but why not you? Why can't it be you? Why can't you have that? Why can't you go there? Why can't you say those things? And that's helped me shift the way I even see myself and the goals that I set for myself. So that's the real one, not the song. Even though the song is it's a good one, but that's not it.
yeah, we liked you singing that. We enjoyed that. Do it one more time. I gotta go download. That's my mama, right? Or uh
Uh, I think it's called "That's Your
something on
Mama."
my mama or something.
On my mama, on my hood, I look fly, I look good. That's all I never know the name of the song, but I just know that there are times when it has literally been the soundtrack in my head when I start like saying something negative to myself, and I can hear, and that's thank shout out to my sister-in-law who told me talk my ish. That's her message to me every time. No, talk your ish. You've gotten here because you've earned it. And so now that, thanks to her, that's the song that play anytime I ask her, what do you think about whatever, she will send me that song in a heartbeat. So now that's just kind of become the unofficial I can do it soundtrack in my
I
head.
love that. I love that. I want to go back in the chat too to Celia said, "This is why I came tonight. It's lonely living in the country, starting a business, working from home. So I seek opportunities to meet women virtually. I have good friends, but they are all over the country." So thank you for sharing that, Celia. We're happy to have you here tonight. And Allie said her mantra is lead with honesty and leave with authenticity. That's good. And Hattie said, that's confidence. Stay true to yourself. That's the why not me. Yes, why not me? And Pam said, you can't go wrong with that song. That's your crew. That's your tribe in the chat, Dr. J. So look, we're almost at a close, but I do want to ask this last question, and I want to direct this to Dr. J and Veronica as our licensed professionals on the stage. This tonight is being brought to us by the Sound Minds Mental Health Awareness and Solutions Conference. And so we definitely want to shine a light on their expertise while they're on stage, just to give us one piece of advice that they would give to a woman who, to women rather, who's striving to lead while prioritizing their well-being. What's one piece of advice you would give to women who are striving to lead while prioritizing their well-being? And it would be great if, we if one of you, I don't know how you all want to do this, but let's speak to that woman who is a wife, that woman who is a parent, who is a mother, and to that woman who is a woman trying to, succeed and to prioritize their well-being while rising to the top.
I think the biggest thing that I would say to any woman is to ditch the myth of balance. life is not balanced. Everything is not going to be even on all sides at all times. Find your rhythm. Just like when you go through the radio, you got R&B, you got slow jams, you got hip hop, you got mosh pit, pop, whatever. And if you're anything like me, your musical taste might be very eclectic, and what you listen to on one day might not be what you listen to on another day. If I'm going to the gym, I'm not listening to Beethoven. I probably have Biggie Smalls, some kind of nori something in my ear because I need to get pumped up. I need to get amped up. At the same time, if I'm trying to unwind at the end of the day, I'm not listening to Guns N' Roses. I'm probably listening to something with no words to it. I'm gonna work on silence, Veronica, but I ain't quite there yet. The best I can do right now is no lyrics in the music, right? But find your rhythm. What does today call for? Am I pop locking today or am I waltzing today? What and not even today. It might be in this moment. In this space, I may have to, you know, break dance literally because it's stuff going on all around me. But then in this space, I might be able to do a pirouette and do a beautiful ballet or interpretive dance, whatever. I think the key is finding what it is that you need to be and who you need to be and tune into that. Because there's nothing wrong with, we have this thing about code switching. Code switching is actually a sign of emotional intelligence. So when you have the emotional intelligence to know what you need to be in each space, it actually makes you a healthier, happier person. Stop trying to make everything equal on both sides. Figure out what you need in the moment and let that part of you rise to the occasion. There's going to be a time for that other side of you. It's just not her time yet.
Thank you. Veronica?
You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth by being exhausted. Your well being is not the reward, it's the requirement. You're not just building a business or career, you're building a life. Make sure the version of success you're chasing actually feels good to you, not just the world watching. And so I have a skill that I quickly want to teach you guys. Too many of us go from an event happening straight to acting on urges and impulses. We don't know how to self-regulate. We don't know how to control those emotions. It could be because we're women of color, and that's just kind of how we're brought up. I told you guys my dad was a gangster, so I learned how to box when I was 10 years old. So I can go hood in like 5 seconds, even though I'm a therapist. And so one thing that really helped me was being able to identify like an event, being able to identify my thoughts about the event, being able to identify what are my emotions, like what am I experiencing, and then what is happening, like what is my body's physiological response to this. Am I, is my heart rate at like 50,000? Am I seeing red? I don't know how many of you see red when you're upset, but am I seeing red? Where am I at? And really, really that level of self-awareness and developing that self-awareness by identifying those three things has really helped me not only self-regulate, but it helped me stop apologizing. It helped me, with no longer reacting, and instead of reacting, responding to a situation. And so if I can get those three things in check, then I can show up. I can show up as an exceptional version of myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you all are getting these nuggets. This is amazing. This is so good. Just so grateful that you all took time out to hang out with us in your PJs as we pause and pour into ourselves. And we do have one question that Ashley asked. Does Ashley want to come on, or are we going to ask her question for her? Let me see if I see Ashley. I'm not sure if she has her camera on or if you all can help me, our team. But I'm going to go on and ask her questions since we are close to our time. So Ashley wants to know, how do you learn to listen to your body when you've had to ignore it as a self-preservation tactic?
Just start.
Well, I agree to that. Slow it down. Slow it down. Be very, very mindful and aware. So you're able to say right now that you were taught to ignore it, right? A good amount of us were taught to brush things under the rug. And we did that as a form of survival. We did that because we didn't know. We did not have the tools to really address the emotions that we were experiencing in that moment. We weren't modeled it either. I know, at least for me, I was not modeled for it. And so I think the starting point is recognizing that there's something happening in your body. And being mindful, is it a rapid heart rate? And write these things down. Is it a rapid heart rate? Is it an increase in heat in your body? Are you feeling tight or tense anywhere? Are your palms sweaty? I know for me, I carry it in my shoulders. Are your shoulders starting to tighten up? Your body is communicating something to you. Our body keeps score. And so being able to just, how Dr. J said, just start, but start by writing it down and being aware, because a good amount of us, like I said earlier, a triggering event happens and we go straight to action, right? Our impulses and urges. So being able to slow it down by identifying what are the emotions attached to this triggering event? What are my thoughts attached to this triggering event? And a lot of us weren't taught how to identify those thoughts. So really putting it pen to paper and being able to identify it is that starting process, but it slows it down so that you can experience it as opposed to running away from it.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
The only thing I would add to that too is give yourself credit. The fact that you asked that question, you've already started the process. If you're aware enough to know that this is a question that you have, then you are aware enough to start the process. The first step is recognizing that there is a problem, right? And so if you have the awareness to ask this question, you're already on that journey. Give yourself credit. That's the thing that as women, particularly women of color, we don't do enough of. We don't recognize that we are on our way to healing because it doesn't look like the end result. So give yourself credit. You already started. You're well on your way.
Thank you. Ursula and Brandy, any last gems you want to share? 30 seconds each, 30-second commercial to the women in the room tonight.
Celebrate the small stuff. Celebrate yourself. I read a book and I actually put it in the chat earlier by Mel Robbins. It's called The High Five Habit. Every morning when you wake up and you go into the bathroom, high five yourself. You can say any affirmation that you want. You can just say, you got this, whatever it is that works for you. And you will notice that if you do that every day, you're going to feel much better about yourself and you're going to have a much better day. So I love you all. You've got this. And I high five you.
Ursula, I love that you brought up Mel Robbins. I was just listening to her podcast episode the other day about the evening routine. I've been trying to incorporate some of her recommendations into my evening routines, and it's something you really have to think about. So it's been good so far. But I would say my parting words are, remember to make your boundaries and keep them. Right. So I know so many of us, it can be really easy for those boundaries to be pushed, especially in the work or family requirements or life. Just know that those boundaries, you set them for a reason, right? So you have to remember to take time for yourself when you're setting those boundaries. So if you want to, go to that spin class at 7:00, or you want to, cook that healthy dinner, you want to go grocery shopping and get your to-do list done, don't let anything come in the way of that.